Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, February 6th meeting of the Planning Commission. If everyone would rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag's in the right place.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Andrew, can we have roll call?
Member Keeney. Vice Chair List.
Here.
Chair Saragosa.
Here.
Member Friend.
Eagerly.
We have a quorum. Let us go ahead and move on to item 3 on the consent calendar, adoption of agenda.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Item 3.2, approval of the January 16th, 2008 regular meeting minutes. I broke them out. I just broke it out.
We'll move to adopt.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we're moving on to item 5. This is items of interest to the general public that are items that are not on the agenda. If anyone has any items that they'd like to bring forward, now would be the time. I saw a faint. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to communications.
None from staff tonight.
Okay, I will have to get used to this. I have to crane my neck a little bit to see staff over there, but we'll make it work. So we will move to item 7, ceremonial matters, and that is an adoption of a resolution expressing appreciation to our former colleague here, Peter Wolf, for his service as Planning Commissioner. So, Peter, if we could invite you to the podium, please.
Do I have to argue with anybody? Anything? All right, I'm here.
I got your mic going.
I usually forget to turn it on. So,
Well, what I'd like to do is read a resolution into the record. And so this resolution is a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Placerville, State of California, expressing our appreciation to Peter Wolf for his service as Planning Commissioner. Whereas on January 3rd, 2007, the Placerville City Council appointed Peter to serve on the City of Placerville Planning Commission, a position he held until February 2012. And whereas on May 5th, 2015, the Placerville City Council reappointed Peter to serve on the Planning Commissioner. And whereas the Planning Commission elected Peter to serve as chair of the commission during 2015 and 2016, whereas Peter's background and experience, together with his interest in planning and dedication to serving his community, have been of great benefit in representing the residents of Placerville during his years on the Planning Commission, and whereas Peter held a strong commitment to understanding complex planning issues in order to make educated, informed decisions to enhance the environment and quality of life for all the city residents. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Planning Commission does hereby officially express its sincere thanks, appreciation, and gratitude to Peter Wolf for his service on the Placerville Planning Commission on behalf of the residents of Placerville, California, introduced and passed this evening, February 6, 2018. And so at that point, I'd like to invite any of my colleagues, if they have any words they'd like to share with Mr. Wolf.
About 18 years ago, I stepped into a new position at Union Mine High School teaching drafting, design, architecture. And I asked around town for somebody an architect that would be willing to serve on my advisory committee. And somebody gave me the name of Peter Wolf, and I'd never met him, didn't know what he looked like. And so I called my first meeting, and I was expecting a robust individual dressed to the hilt, as most architects are. In walks this guy with a t-shirt that says, "My other vehicle is a bike," in shorts. Introduces himself. We had quite a meeting. Afterwards, I invited, for some reason, I can't figure that one out, but I invited him back to speak to my students, figuring this would be a good guy to speak to students. He scared the willies out of them. He had one young lady that he captivated and convinced her that the best school to go to was his alma mater, University of New Mexico, if I remember correctly. And she did go there at his advice. But I just want to tell you that I appreciate the work that you did then. I appreciated the comments, the time, the effort that you put in on the Planning Commission. And I personally want to thank you for your friendship and your dedicated work to this city and this commission.
Well, thank you very much. Usually teachers don't have nice things to say about my behavior, so thank you.
Well, that one was mixed.
Yeah. Okay, I'll sit down. Thank you.
Nope, not quite done yet, Peter. I'd like to ask for unanimous consent on the resolution.
Sorry, I had a comment.
Oh, absolutely, Commissioner.
There's always discussion on the motion.
That's right. Some members will go to any lengths possible to avoid reviewing the bylaws. We had a conversation up here a moment ago thinking it might be easier simply to annex your property back into the city, and then therefore we could keep you. So we have served for many years on this body, and for me personally and professionally, it's been a very enjoyable, stimulating, and contemplative time, Peter. You've always been incredibly, respectful, sure, but also introspective on many of the issues, and always brought, I thought, very good and well-reasoned perspectives and different points of view that really forced, at least for myself, to really consider some of the issues. And we have had a few doozies along the way. We are I'm gonna miss you. I'm sure I'm not speaking out of turn for the rest of the commission to say that we're going to miss you. Be difficult to replace, I think, somebody of your caliber and knowledge. And hopefully you'll feel free to send in comments on things that we are gonna have to review, or on actions that we do take. And they would always be welcome.
And thank you for those good comments. And it's always a better thing for an architect when you come back as an applicant, because that means there's lots of good stuff happening. But I share your sentiments too, even though we didn't always agree on things. It was kind of fun to do it, and we always managed to stay respectful, and except for when you weren't here, and then that was different.
Yeah.
Well, and Peter, I know we didn't get to serve together too long, although we've had overlapping times both on the now formerly Historical Advisory Commission as well as on Planning Commission. And I also want to thank you. I learned a lot in a short period of time for you. It's always a great balance to figure out the individual need and what we want to do on a piece of property for a person, as well as what's the greater benefit to the city as well. And I think you always did very well in balancing those two things, which are not an easy accomplishment to do. And so I thank you for that wisdom you've brought to this body. And I'll be reaching out in the future for get your thoughts on things. So you'll
Happy
only
to help.
be
Thank you.
slightly away from us.
Although this is a little unnerving having the grown-ups here behind me. It's like, ugh.
Well, I do have a motion on the floor.
Do you need a second for that motion?
I do.
I'd gladly second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Peter, thank you. And I think staff, we have a gift for Mr. Wolf?
Yes, we do.
Is this appealable to the city council?
Possibly.
I guess
It depends on the gift.
technically the resolution, yes, someone could appeal that determination.
Who's?
On behalf of the city would like to present you a plaque with, and it states, in grateful recognition of your service to the City of Placerville Planning Commission, May of 2015 to January of 2018. So Peter, thank you very much for your time. We also have a resolution for you for
Okay, moving along to new business. Oh, yes.
Yeah, point of
the
order.
The mayor would like to. Yes.
I'm going to pull the mayor card here, sorry.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Good evening, Planning Commission. And it is my privilege to be here on behalf of the entire City Council to recognize Commissioner Wolf. And I like your idea of not letting him go. We can do that, couldn't we? I like that.
I think so.
But Peter, I'm going to address you personally. The city is very grateful for your years of service. And the entire City Council thanks you for your intelligent, thoughtful ability to reason complex challenges, come to a compromise at times, and move our city forward in an authentic way. And your knowledge of architecture is incredibly valuable to our city, and that's hard to duplicate. But it's your passion for our community and your commitment to our community that is extraordinary. And that's what has made you truly irreplaceable as a planning commissioner. And so, on behalf of the City Council, we thank you for your service. And on a personal note, I also want to thank you. We go way back. Those of you who may not know, we go back about, beyond that, 10 years at least, and beyond that, even more. But 10 years ago, Peter and I worked on a little committee to envision the future of Broadway, and we were just two citizens that were passionate about our community and thought that maybe there were some creative options to move our city forward. And he and I worked on the Broadway Village Association, and you taught me how to do a charrette, and we did a killer charrette that envisioned the future of Broadway and what it could be. And then when I decided to run for City Council, Peter said, "You need a campaign committee." I said, "I do?" And he helped lead that. So it's been a privilege to serve with you on behalf of our city. And thank you very much for your years of dedicated service. And don't go away, because I know you still love our community and we can use your talents. We're very grateful, Peter.
Let's work on an annexation thing for the Lindbergh neighborhood.
I like that. We can do that. No. So here's a certificate of recognition from the City Council. So I'll give you a hug.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And we appreciate all of you serving in this really important capacity. You are a great service to the City Council and to the citizens of Placerville, and we very much appreciate what you do. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Anybody else?
I would like to see.
Yes.
I know, right? I always hate following Wendy because she is so eloquent speaking that it's, especially at the dinner table around prayer and stuff like that, it doesn't go very well for me. But I've had the opportunity, much like Wendy, to have known Peter for a very long time. I mean, I actually replaced him on the Planning Commission for a short stint before I went to the Fire Board. And it was impossible to fill his shoes at that time, and I think everybody knew that. But one of the things that I have recognized with Peter that is so amazing is every time that things come through our community and things need to be drafted, whether it's a baseball field or an envisioning process downtown or Broadway, ultimately, most of the time I've seen Peter's name on it. It's not because he's gotten paid, it's because he loves our community. And he doesn't do it other than for the goodness of our community. And from my point of view, I'm also the president of PDA. I know that the businesses downtown are ever grateful, even though a lot of them don't know all the things that you've done to help improve the quality of our downtown. I think if they were to know, they would truly appreciate it. And I know I do, because I've been around a long time, and I've seen you do so many things for our community. So thank you very much for all that. Thank you. Mhm.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, we will go ahead and close the public portion and move on to item 8, new business. And that is General Plan Consistency Review, 18-01, a request by the City of Placerville for the Placerville Planning Commission to make a finding pursuant to the acquisition of real property. And then we'll go to staff member Rivas for a brief synopsis. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Saragoza, members of the Planning Commission. The city is seeking property for expanding its existing public safety building, the police department, and the city did purchase the adjoining property directly to the east. The subject property is approximately two-tenths of an acre. It's vacant, and it's at 718 Main Street between the existing public safety building and the public safety parking lot, as shown as in the exhibits on your staff report. Pursuant to Government Code 65402, the acquisition or sale of property by a public agency is required to be reviewed by the Planning Commission for a determination of consistency with its general plan. And the Planning Commission is the planning agency for the City of Placerville. Therefore, the Commission is charged with making that determination for the use of this property in its consistency with the general plan. So staff did an analysis of the applicable goals, objectives, and policies in the general plan as contained in the staff report. And with that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission does find that the acquisition of the real property by the City of Placerville for purposes of future expansion to the police public safety facility is consistent with the City of Placerville General Plan pursuant to Government Code Section 65402. With that concludes staff's report. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have at this time. And we also have City Manager Cleve Morris in the audience, who can certainly answer any questions you may have regarding the future use of that property. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre. Before we move on, any questions for Pierre, colleagues?
I'm just curious as to where the city is at in terms of the purchase, or is this a necessary step before the city can actually purchase the property? I'm assuming it's the latter.
The city did purchase the property.
Okay.
The grant deed was recorded on December 22nd of 2017.
Okay. I don't have an issue with that. It just seems that if the city made the purchase, but that was not consistent, then wouldn't that be a problem? And why wouldn't this come before the Planning Commission to make sure that everything's okay before the purchase is made? And maybe I say Cleve is, and you know, sure.
Thank you, Commissioners, and very good question, Commissioner Friend, and I will admit my ignorance on this. This was my mistake. I jumped the gun on it. It should have come to you prior to.
Okay.
I guess the technical fix would be that if it's not consistent, we would have to consider selling the property to someone and not using it going forward. But technically, we should have done this action first, and I apologize for that. It was the city manager that didn't know what he was doing and jumped the gun a little bit. So that's the reason for that, but you're absolutely correct. Normal procedure, it should have come to you first.
Okay.
So.
My question wasn't meant to be critical. It's just
No.
thinking about the process.
Sure. Good question.
And then I guess another question is the sale price public record or not? We noticed that there's no price in the staff report.
It is public record. It's a recorded document.
Okay.
That has the
I'm
cost
not
and
asking.
everything in
I'm
there.
just curious.
And we purchased the property for $100,000 even plus closing costs.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Any further questions for city manager, staff? No? Do we have a motion to entertain?
Make a motion to adopt the staff report and make the finding that the acquisition of the subject property is consistent with the general plan under Government Code Section 65402.
I second.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, let's go ahead and have roll call vote.
Pardon me. Member Keeney.
Aye.
Vice Chair List.
Aye.
Chair Saragosa.
Aye.
Member Friend.
Aye.
Okay, that measure passes 4-0. And we will now move on to matters from commissioners.
I have one request for staff. We updated our general plan policy document with some new pages and the divider, but for Part 2, Section 1 is not right. It has, let's see, in the old version, it had page 21 on the first side, and then you flipped it as the divider. If you could just or circulate a copy with the proper font, so we have an official divider for Part 2, Section 1. Would come after page 21 in the policy document.
Any other? Okay, item 10, matters from staff.
Just a couple matters, Chair Saragosa. Staff wants to just announce that we will be receiving what's called a screen check public review draft general plan for the Clay Street Bridge project this coming Friday, and so we are anticipating release of the public review draft on the following Friday. That would be February the 16th. And then the other announcement is staff wants to just make the general announcement that the open, we have announced the opening of a planning commission seat, and that will close on the 12th. And so we just encourage, if any of you happen to know people that may be interested, encourage them to apply. It'd be nice to have a pool to select from. So thank you. That's all I have.
Great, thank you, Pierre.
I just have one thing to add. We do not anticipate having an agenda 2 weeks from tonight, so we do not have any agenda items for you.
Okay, thank you. So that would be the yes. Do we anticipate one for the meeting the beginning of that first week of March?
At this particular hour, I would say that we will not. I hedge that bet because in theory, we could get an application submitted tomorrow, which might be timely to get it on that meeting's agenda. But at this point, it does not look as if, what is it, the 5th? You said the 5th of March? Yeah.
Yes.
So at this point, I don't believe that's going to happen either.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Any other? Seeing none, item 11, we will adjourn for the evening. Thank you, everybody.